Hi, this video I'm going to be looking at how to produce something like this. This has been foiled on some plain card and then coloured in using some stamping inks and a water brush. I've got some other examples that I'll show you in a minute or two that I've done filling in with other types of mediums. Anything water based you could use. So I've done that using this. Now this is made from laid up die cuts. I covered that in a previous video. Initially made it out of craft card, cut 3 layers of craft card, and then to get a really smooth finish on the foiling, my top layer is some nice silver mirror card. So that gives me, when it's foiled, a real good smooth finish on the foil. So not everybody has got a die like that, but I thought lots of people have got probably either this nice butterfly that comes with the version 2 of the GoPress, which did in the bundle I got, or perhaps you've got some of the Anna Griffin dies. So this is what I'm going to use. I'm going to put it on the GoPress to start warming up. Bring that into view for you. So I'm going to put that in the middle of my GoPress, pattern side up, and leave that to warm up for a minute or two. Doesn't take very long to warm up. The foil I'm using is not a Couture Creations one. It's one I bought as a roll. It is a lovely foil with a lovely shiny finish, but it needs a little longer to warm. You might notice that rather than being sort of shiny, semi-shiny silver on the back, it's sort of a matte yellow. So that's going to need, as I say, a little bit longer to warm up. So I'm going to put that onto my die, my hot foil stamp, and a piece of card. And I'm going to add a double thickness shim. There we go, that could be warming up. Just going to fetch those other examples. So this is another example, forward in exactly the same way, but this one I painted using mica watercolours. They're a slightly different set of colours. They have a nice sheen on them. So that's another possibility if people have those. And this one I used pigment based stamping ink, mixed it with a bit of glycerin to make it blend a bit more easily, and just kind of smudged it over the top of the foiling in the general areas it needed to go. Didn't worry about going over the edges, just to give a different kind of washed look to that one. And then this one I used the same pigment inks but applied them carefully with a water brush to fill that one in. And I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with this in the end. So I made this using an embossing folder and the back of a die to foil. And then I've inked around the edges with the intention that it would go on there. But I kind of decided that that's all a bit too much, and it detracts from the the actual image. So then I wondered about doing something like that with the gold matte, and I might go that way, or just keeping it simple and just having the next size die out and just inking the edges, and maybe putting the top layer up on some foam pads to do that. Anyway, the GoPress has been warming up. Let me run that through the die cutting machine and see how that comes out. Now, my die cutting machine happens to be a Todo, but I have it set just so that it rolls nicely over the top of this, exactly the same way as you would with any other die cutting machine. So there's my foiling. I like to see the foil pressed into the cardstock. And no, not quite enough pressure. I've not got a good image there. I'm going to do that again. The Couture Creations foils tend not to need quite so much pressure. That's 2 shims. I'm going to add a third. And if I get foiling that doesn't go quite right, I tend to use it as a shim. Leave that to warm up for a couple of minutes. While I do that, I'll talk about how I'm actually going to colour this in. So I have here some Pigment ink pads. I bought these when I first started crafting. I didn't really know what I needed. Lots and lots of colours, which is great. But not a lot of good if you want your image in one single colour. But they're Pigment ink pads. They tend to be really quite cheap to get lots of colours. If I was buying again, I'd buy a selection of mini ink pads because it's a lot easier. You can just put out the colours you want. So when you use these, what you do is you have a glass mat or a piece of tile or even a piece of acetate, and you just press it onto there so it releases some ink, and then you can use that with your water brush. I'm just going to put the rest of these out of the way for a minute. These stack up quite nicely, and hopefully that's warmed up and will give us a good image this time. I'm going to pause just while I do that. Okay, so that's had some time to heat and I've run that through the Todo. One shim and another 2. And there's my foiling. Let's see if that's done a better job this time. Okay, so now I'm going to colour that in and you're going to get to watch. So I have here a water brush. In the barrel here there's water. It unscrews so you can fill it up. So you can use it over and over and over again. I will need some kitchen paper. Okay, so it's always a good idea to have a tissue or some kitchen paper to hand, just so that you can make sure you've got water in the brush, but it's and it's clean and it's not too waterlogged. So if you want to just push some water through the brush, you just squeeze slightly and that comes down. That can just drip on there. Okay, now I'm going to pick up some ink off the mat here. Not sure you can see that properly. There we go. Let me put some more ink down so you can see that properly. So just pressing the ink pad on my glass mat. And then just putting my water brush into the ink, and I'm going to start off with some pink in the middle, and then I'm going to change to some purple as I move out. I'm going to try and keep this symmetrical. Butterflies do have the same both sides. But also I kind of want a watercolour effect, so that's that. Bit more colour there. Literally just picking the colour up on the brush, brushing it over. I'm not being careful of the lines, because it acts as a resistant. Once it's dry, if you give it a buff and any pigment that's landed on the foil just comes away. I think I'll do some of this pink down at the bottom. Okay, so I've got some areas of pink on there. So now I'm going to change the colours I'm using. So I'm going to push some water through the brush, just wipe it on my kitchen paper, and that cleans the brush. I'm going to go for some purples next. When you're using your hot foil stamps in this way, it really is like stamping. So when you see people demonstrating techniques for colouring in stamps. You can do all those kinds of things using your foiled images. Excuse me a moment. Okay, so I've carried on and filled in some of the pink. I'm going to add some blue as well. My blue ink pad. Onto my craft mat. Get the pink out the brush. There. Now that needs to dry before it gets buffed up, and I actually find the perfect place to do this is just to rest the card on the GoPress with the lid open just for a few minutes. It's a nice gentle even heat. So I'll just leave that there for a minute while I make sure everyone's clear on what I did. So I've used a Couture Creations hot foil stamp for this. Other people are actually manufacturing these now. Craft Stash do their own. Todo ones are compatible. So there's lots of choice. Or have a look through your dies. Have you got ones with nice thin edges like this? This is a tattered lace die. And literally just cut it out of several layers of craft card. Craft card seems really stable for doing this. And then, as I say, the top layer is a mirror card. You just have to be really, really careful lining it up. And I find it best to use plenty of glue and worry about getting any that's squidged out and got onto the surface of things afterwards. Putting more glue in actually you seem to end up a stiffer template at the end. So that works quite well. I'm going to clean my brush. Just push some water through, put it on the tissue, put the lid on. I don't even bother emptying it. I leave it in my craft box like that, ready to use. And then the ink, when you've finished with it, you can clear it up straight away. Or if you want to die cut your finished item, like I did, you can die cut it and then use some ink around the edges of your die cut. I applied that for blending tool. I could go around this one without die cutting it. Blending tool. Some people like to mix some glycerin in, just it makes the ink blend more easily. but you can do it just with what you've got here. So let's do that. So I'm going to pick up some pink here. Just come around the edge of the card. There's the places. Let's have that with the blending tool. I'll take some of the blue around the corners. Literally just coming onto the edge of the card in a circular motion. You see where I've got edges in my ink there. That doesn't tend to happen when you use the glycerin. You can blend them out. It's a bit harder work. You end up with a harsher effect on the card. Take some of the purple. There we are. So I've just done that onto my rectangle of card, but you could die cut it at a pretty shape and then do that. If you don't have a blending tool, you can use a piece of makeup sponge. I find that you can get a bag of these in the UK in shops that sell everything for £1, and they do a whole bag of them. They're really good value, and you can just pick it up. There we go. Go around the edge. Again, not quite such a good effect. You have to be a bit careful you don't get lines. But if you're staying to the edges of your card, let's just doing this on the edge. Make the edge darker. That works perfectly well. I have got some round pieces here somewhere. There we go. So that'll give a softer edge. Now, I must explain the card that I'm using. Let me leave that to dry a bit, and then I'm going to buff it up. The cardstock that I'm using, I've done these on, is a 250 GSM, very smooth white card that's ideal for things like laser printing on. Don't know about for inkjet, but it's a card that I've found that's very cost effective and that most of my foils work very well on. It's not ideal for watercolouring on. It doesn't let the colour move around a great deal. I have tried using sparkle pens on it, and it's that smooth on the surface that actually the mica in those doesn't stay put, it comes off. So it depends what you want to be able to colour in with. Couture Creations foils seem to work on just about any kind of card. So if you're foiling with Couture Creations foil, you can use a much wider range of cardstocks. You will need to experiment. See what card you've got, try foiling on it, see what water mediums you've got Aqua Markers, all that kind of thing. You can pick those up with a water brush and use those to fill in your image. So I'm going to let that dry and then I'm going to show you buffing it up. Okay, so while I've been waiting for this to dry, I've cleaned the ink I was using off of my craft mat. Just used my piece of wet kitchen paper that I had to wipe that up and make sure my craft mat's nice and clean and dry before I do this next bit. So just to get rid of any ink that's gone over the foil, I'm just going to give this a good wipe with a dry piece of kitchen paper or tissue. There. There we are, foil's nice and shiny, ink's nice and dry. And then you can use that on a card. Thanks for watching.